Hi, I'm Rich Orloff. Welcome to Celebrating Gerrianne and Evening with Gerrianne Raphael.
Thank you.
I had the very good fortune in 2004. I joined a new Off-Broadway theater group called Workshop Theater Company. And I had written a collection of short comedies called Foreign Affairs, and I was planning a reading. And I said, I need a really versatile comedic actress who's fearless. And everyone said, Gerrianne Raphael. So she did a reading, and then she did the show, and I've since used her in almost everything possible. So roles she has played in just my plays include, but are not limited to, the mom of the first American Pope, a pushy Bulgarian mother, a wife who dares her husband to get a Brazilian wax, Jocasta, the wife and mother of Oedipus Rex, a Russian noblewoman, a 1930s directory assistance operator, a Margaret Dumont type in a Marx Brothers spoof, a French revolutionary named Madame Fromage, a Yiddish-speaking grandmother, the leader of the Alabama Tea Party, and in a reading of my play, Men Overboard, a 13-year-old bar mitzvah boy.
That was almost my favorite.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, the incomparable Gerrianne Raphael. Hi. Let me get this. You're fine.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I've done some research on you. You're fun to research. You've had quite a life. And if I'm correct, your performing debut was in 1936 at the age of 4 in the radio show Let's Pretend.
That is correct.
So my first question is, had you dreamt of being in show business since you were 3?
Actually, my father was the pianist with CBS Symphony, and he used to play this radio program called Let's Pretend. But what started me was my mother had a friend who was auditioning for something, I don't know what it was, and she was doing the courtroom scene from Bernard Shaw's St. Joan. And I remember learning the whole thing because, I mean, I was there, all there, and, you know, and my mother was helping her, and she was not getting it. But and I remember getting up and going into my parents' bedroom and doing the entire speech, the whole thing.
From St. Joan.
You lied, light your fire. Do you think I'd read it as much as the life of a rat in a hole? I mean, I remember, I don't know what. And they looked at each other and they went, what the hell? What is that? What is that? Anyway, so that's how I started.
Wow.
So then I went on Let's Pretend when I was very little. And I carried the script because all the other children who were 12 to 17, that all were reading.
But did you know how to read?
No, I memorized it, and I was holding my script, so I looked like the other kids, and I, you know.
Right.
So that was my
were
first
both
script.
of your parents in show business?
No.
Your
Just
father
my father was a concert pianist. He was, you know, played for CBS, the symphony for years and years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Let's Pretend was a CBS show?
Yes, absolutely. And it was not commercial. It was on Saturday morning. It was very popular. But then they got a commercial finally, and it was cream of wheat is so good to eat. Yes, we have it every day.
Gotcha.
Anyway, but it was a garden wall, and Daddy used to play that, and so they added the you know, they wrote the commercial to go with it.
And I'm curious, was there an audience for that?
No.
Okay.
No.
So you were a child actor.
Yes.
Yes, child actors were really big in that, especially in Hollywood. Did your parents ever consider, or did you consider Hollywood?
Well, when I was 5, I first performed in front of a bunch of people, and it was a soiree at the Warwick Hotel, and my father was playing the piano on it, and Mitzi Mayfair, and Sir Cedric Hardwicke, and baby Gerrianne in her impressions of St. Joan and Peg of My Heart. And that was, and I mean, I remember it was, you know, very exciting. I couldn't wait to get out there. It was really how I felt. That was my first time performing.
Did you get any laughs?
I don't think so. I think everybody was more like that. But there was a gentleman on the show who played the guitar, and he said to my mother, she's got to have a manager. She's got to have a manager. So I met up with this person that he suggested, who was very German. And she said, she's got to go to Hollywood. And so I went to Hollywood with my coach. Am I just there? Okay. At 12, I was 5 years old. I had my 6th birthday in California, right? And so I went to California, and nothing happened. I made one film.
What was the film?
And the film was called Little Miss Thoroughbred. I was just before Margaret O'Brien. You know, she thought I was going to be another Shirley Temple. I was not Shirley Temple. I had long, dark hair braids. You know, I was Margaret O'Brien, but before Margaret O'Brien.
Did they try to blonde you up or something?
No, not really, but she was like, no, she can't wear that, not the white dress. No, take that, too dark. You know.
The reason I ask is I actually watched a trailer for Little Miss Thoroughbred, and the actress who ended up playing Little Miss Thoroughbred was awful, and like had peroxide blonde hair.
What happened was they cast me, and they were very happy with me, and then it got postponed. And I grew like 2 inches or something, you know. I was 6 years old. And so they got this little girl who was 8.5, and she came up to here on me. But they wrote in a part for me as the policeman's daughter, so I was still in the film. And it was directed by John Farrow, Mia Farrow's
dad, and also the husband of Maureen O'Sullivan.
And Maureen O'Sullivan was at the shoot every single day. She just by her husband's side all the time. And I remember her coming up to me and saying, dear, don't mouth all the other people's lines. Because, of course, I knew the whole scene. I mean, you know, and you did it 37 times. Frank McHugh, Ann Sheridan, and John Lytell were the stars of the film.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm hearing the mic go sort of in and out. Is that...
Well, because I'm moving my head. If I stayed absolutely on my mic, it wouldn't happen. But if I go like this, that's
or
fine.
would help if
Or if I look at you, then it's screwed up.
Okay. So you didn't stay in Hollywood long, I gather.
10 months, and then my father was very lonesome, and he drove out to California, and we drove back across the country, and it rained every single day driving across the country. It was just terrible. So that was the end of my Hollywood career. I learned one Spanish line. I learned how to speak Spanish.
What?
Me gustan los gatitos están dormidos.
Which
That's
means?
It. Something I love the kittens. The kittens are sleeping.
Okay. Yeah. Would it help if we moved her mic over a little bit? So
what? It's fine.
Yeah, okay. Great. Okay, just checking.
I'm okay.
And back in New York, I noticed that in 1939, you got your Actors Equity card.
That's correct.
For the show American Jubilee at the 1939 New York World's Fair.
Exactly
correct?
right. Yes. Yes.
Who wrote the script for that?
It was. You know,
That's
I don't know who wrote the script.
I do.
But it was Arthur.
I've done my research. Oscar Hammerstein II.
Oscar Hammerstein II and Arthur Schwartz.
Wow.
It was fantastic. And it was also when Wilkie and Roosevelt were running for president, and Wilkie won every night. They had big, like a clock, and the popularity was all for Wilkie, always, every single night. And it was outdoors. It was a show that was totally outdoors, and the center box was the schoolroom, and we would go up, and the lights would come on. And the teacher would ask questions, we would ask questions, the teacher would answer, all about American history. And then we would go down and it would be enacted and danced and sung on the big stage.
And did you sing in that?
No, not at all. No, I never didn't sing. I was a serious actress.
So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. When did you start to sing? Because I certainly know you in terms of musical comedies, musical drama.
I started to sing when I was about 14, I guess. And I don't know why it started, but my father had played the first audition for Eileen Farrell. she was a friend of ours, so she would come over to the house. And so I said, I really want to sing. And so she said, well, you have to go to my teacher. So I went to Eileen Farrell's teacher. And Eileen Farrell's teacher was in the Ansonia Hotel, where I think all singing teachers were, I've seen. And so I would go there after school, and I was at Professional Children's School. That's where I went to school. And there was this darling girl who was sitting, and she would ring the buzzer for 20 minutes, and then for 30 minutes. That was the way it, Achtung, that's the way it was. And her name was Alice Ghostly, but I didn't know that at the time. And we just had the best time. That's when I started to sing. So I always associate the start of singing with Alice Ghostly, although, And it was before New Faces,
Right.
So
right. Alice Ghostly was Alice Ghostly.
And Mrs. McClellan played all, Italian early songs. She was a wonderful teacher. But it was like 20 minutes. We only have 10 minutes left here,
And in your teenage years, you also understudied a few roles on Broadway, correct?
Oh, yes, a lot.
So, Solitaire, Guest in the House, and Violet, none of which I've ever heard of.
Well, Solitaire was written by John Van Druten.
Oh, wow.
And it starred Patricia Hitchcock.
Uh-huh.
And Victor Killian, who was a cowboy, a well-known cowboy actor type person from Hollywood. And we ran 3 weeks. And they were so sure that it was going to be a big hit. They took pictures of me with everybody, and I was like, part of the main company. And I just remember Mrs. Hitchcock saying to Patricia, Pepper Dop Ducky, the audience is getting dull. So untrue. I mean, it wasn't the audience that was getting dull. It was
Did you ever have a chance to go on in any of these three plays?
I never went on in that. A Guest in the House. Did you say Guest in the House?
Yes.
Yes, I Guest in the House. I went on.
Okay.
And that was Mary Anderson. She was the star of that. And I used to do imitations of her. That was. Yeah, she was terrific. And then I did the subway circuit, which was
describe the subway circuit.
The subway circuit was Passaic, New Jersey, the Mosque in Newark, the Flatbush in Brooklyn, and I don't remember what the Bronx theater was called. But the light has now gone dead.
Oh.
Now it's back. Da-da. Okay. Anyway, and because I was understudying the show, I would watch it every night. And the stage manager was on the book on Right Stage. And so when the subway circuit happened and I was cast to do it, he didn't really know where people were. So I helped him direct the show because I watched it every night.
Wow.
That's.
So you have, I think, almost like a photographic memory, or.
Well, any kid, you see something over and over, no, she didn't go over there then. She waits till she comes down the stairs. Then she makes the move to left stage.
Right, and you weren't shy about telling people.
No.
So in 1948, at age 15, you finally made your Broadway debut in Goodbye My Fancy by Fraser.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a good story. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was doing years ago at the Bucks County Playhouse, and Sidney Blackmer was the star, and I was helping him with his lines all the time, and I went swimming in the Delaware. I mean, it was it's beautiful, Bucks County Playhouse. Okay, and I got poison ivy, and I was itching under my arms and down the side. It was horrible. And I was not playing the lead. Patricia Kirkland was playing the lead in years ago, I'm in the dressing room. The show is over, and I'm scratching. And Gerrianne, there's somebody here to see you. And I thought I'm in Pennsylvania. It was like a Thursday night or something. And I go out of my dressing room, and this guy says, "Hello, I'm Michael Kanan, and this is my brother, Garson Kanan, and this is his wife, Ruth Gordon, and this is my wife, Faye Kanan. And we thought you were wonderful." And Ruth Gordon, it was about Ruth Gordon years ago. And I was playing Bethel Leslie's part. I wasn't playing the main. And Michael Kanan said, "My wife, Faye, has written a play, and it's going to be on Broadway in September, because this was the summer, and we'd like you to be in it. And I mean, my mouth was open, and I stopped itching completely. I mean, I think it was just like, I couldn't believe it. Garson Kanin and Ruth Gordon, but anyway, so that was what happened that summer. It was just, magical and wonderful and so forth. Also, Sidney Blackmer had recommended me to the Chapel Playhouse in Guilford, Connecticut. And they sent me a letter or a telegram saying, could you, you've been highly recommended, and the person playing opposite, I can't even remember his name, some like second-rate movie star who did a lot of summer stock. Whatever. Anyways, was the lead in John Loves Mary, and I was 16. And
Also, John Van Druten play, right?
I guess so. I don't know. I don't remember that. I just know that he kissed me and his mouth was open, and I didn't know what to do with that. And I complained to the stage manager, and I said, I don't know why he's kissing me with his mouth is open. What is that? So they fixed that, I mean, okay, so now I go to New York, and I audition for
Farewell.
Goodbye, My Fancy. And the director was going to be Sam Wanamaker. Sam Wanamaker had just closed in Joan of Lorraine opposite Ingrid Bergman. He was playing the role of the director, and the director was fired or left or whatever. He started out in the audience. I remember seeing the play, and he was started out anyway. So now he sort of directed Joan of Lorraine because he was playing the role of the director. So now he got a play, and he was now going to be in Goodbye, My Fancy, but also direct it. And he was very smart alecky, kind of, this was his first real directing job. And it was 4 stars, Madeline Carroll,
Shirley Booth.
Yes, but who's the man, famous old silent movie star, male, right out of my head. Anyway, it was Madeline Carroll, this other person, which will come to me in a minute, Shirley Booth, and Sam Wanamaker. And so he was very like Michael Caine said, wait till you see this kid. She's wonderful. And he was just talking me up. And Sam Wanamaker was like, oh, yeah, great. I'm not going to, what is this stuff? Anyway, so there I am. And I had this one line, and I auditioned it. And he said, do it again, and more like your Katharine Hepburn. So I said, we of the Dramatic Club applaud you, Agatha Reed. And he was, he hadn't meant at all that I should imitate but I went, yes, sir, Katharine Hepburn. Okay, here's Katharine Hepburn. Anyway, so I got the part, and I got the job. But that was what did it. He was like, I'm not going to take, you want this kid in this, I'm the director. It was that kind of attitude, but we of the Dramatic Club applaud you. Yeah, that's what did it.
And one of the things I noticed about that play, Shirley Booth actually won the Tony for Best Featured Actress.
Oh,
Right.
okay. She was adorable. I just loved her. She was
good.
great.
And so by this point, you've done summer stock, you've understudied, you're in a show. By this point, I assume you've seen your share of good acting and bad acting.
Yes.
Did you develop any of your own sort of opinions, or what did you learn from these people?
A lot of what not to do,
For
and
example?
I don't really know.
Okay.
I hadn't studied yet with anybody. I'd been doing a lot of radio as well. Like Gangbusters and several soap operas. So I was acting a lot. And I knew what I was doing. And I wasn't very popular because I was the youngest one in the show, and all the other girls we were supposed to be college girls, and we were in the dorm, and Madeline Carroll had come back to get an award. So that's sort of what it was about. So it was difficult.
Okay. And you were still in high school?
It was my last year. It was my senior year in high school, and I was at professional children's school. Yes.
Okay.
And
So
graduated.
you finished high school?
I finished high school, and we always graduated professional children's school. We used a theater to have the graduation at, and my theater was the Music Box.
Oh, wow.
And at that time, Gypsy Rose Lee was appearing there in a play called Star and Garter. And so this proscenium were two big legs with garters on them. And then the stage was filled with all of these white dresses and the boys in their jackets and so forth. It was very funny. And Helen Hayes gave me my diploma. So that was my graduation. But I also had a radio show on NEW at that time called Love Letters to the Stars by Gerrianne Raphael on Sunday. So I was graduating high school and doing 8 shows a week, and Sunday I did a radio show.
What was the radio? Love Letters?
Love Letters to the Stars
You
was
would,
the name of it.
What was that?
They picked all the music. I didn't have to run. I didn't have to do the thing, like
Right.
put the arm on the what it is.
Right.
No.
Okay. Oh, so it was a music show.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Oh, I was a disc jockey, and it was called Love, and it was all Love Letters to the Stars. And the theme song, of course, was da 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 dee, da da. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I'll move to the 50s. And in 1954, you were in Threepenny Opera Off-Broadway.
Yes.
Correct?
That was the first time I ever sang for anybody.
Wow.
It was Mark Blitzstein had written the lyrics,
translation.
and Carmen Capalbo was the director.
Right. And for those who don't know, Threepenny Opera is probably the musical that made, put Bertolt Brecht and Kurt Weill on the map years earlier in Germany.
And Lottie Lenya, Kurt Weill's wife, was playing Jenny,
right.
Pirate Jenny. And
This was Off-Broadway, and so
this
the
was at the
burgeoning
Theatre de
Off-Broadway,
Lys,
which is now
which is now called something
Lucille
else,
Lortel.
the Lucille Lortel. But this was the Theatre de Lys, and I was the baby whore.
Wow. How did you research that?
And they came, I guess it was Life magazine, I don't remember who the photographer was, but he just had a thing for me, and so that's why I'm on the cover of the album. With the, it was really nice. B. Arthur was playing Polly, Jenny, I forgot the Katie's character. No. Polly Peachum was Joe Sullivan.
Right.
And Charlotte Ray was Mrs. Peachum.
And John Astin was in it?
John Astin was one of the crooks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you at all intimidated by these people? These are like...
No, not at all. I'd been working, and we're just another actor. And I loved Lenya was terrific, She was just marvelous. And very scared because she hadn't sung in a long time, and she was old, and she had created this role. And so anyway, I sang Summertime for Mark Blitzstein, and I got cast. And I had to cover Polly. And so Joe and I shared a dressing room. I can't call it a dressing room. It was a little hall. It was a little room this big. And if one person was at the mirror, the other person had to be behind. Lenya and B had the next dressing room and did that. The same, it was just wonderful and terrible. Anyway, so that was Threepenny.
Wow.
And then Joe left to marry Frank Lesser and be in...
Most Happy Fellow.
Thank you. And I suddenly was playing Polly. And I just loved it. It was wonderful. Very exciting, and that was that.
And this was quite a hit. I mean, it started
Oh,
in
it was.
54 and ran till 1961.
And every time we closed, there was a given time, and we closed, and Clive Barnes at the end of every review would say, "Bring back the Threepenny Opera," because people were going to the Theatre de Lys to see whatever was there, and at the end of every review, "Bring back Threepenny Opera." So a year later or 2 years later, he did, and he called me up and he offered me my original role of the baby prostitute. And I said, no, thank you. I mean, no. And I forgot, maybe it was Joe, somebody's daughter, I can't remember her name,
Okay.
but anyway, was playing Polly. And I was busy doing whatever else. I was doing I did a lot of radio. I was on the radio a lot on My True Story and all those other shows and stuff. Anyway, so one night, 2 years after I left the show, 6:30, 6:45, I get a phone call, Gerrianne, it's Carmen. I went, Carmen? What is...
Who's Carmen?
And he said, could you come in tonight and play Polly? And I said, what? He said, she's afraid she can't go on. And Joe, the person who was playing it was Joe somebody, and she's somebody's daughter, like, I can't remember now, but anyway. So I said, well, I remember the songs. I mean, I know the musically. I said, but I don't remember the dialogue. I really don't. He said, don't worry, we'll do it. And so, so the stage manager wrote the dialogue in this booklet that I had to carry around to tell the crooks where to go and what to do. So I had and musically I was fine. I had to sing the duet, and I had to sing the Bidewee and Soho and blah, blah, blah. And Joe Wilder. Joe Wilder. And anyway, and she had gone away to get a medical thing she had to get taken care of somewhere in Mexico or something. I don't know. Anyway, so and what had happened was, B said, I said to Carmen, I said, for Christ's sakes, call Gerrianne. I played Polly for quite a while, at that time. So that was what happened with that.
Wow. And then you actually left again and came back and eventually played Jenny?
That was after I was in a play called Saratoga, where I was covering Carol Lawrence.
Okay. We'll get to that in a moment.
But it was at the end of that show that I was offered Bye Bye Birdie to cover Cheetah. And I said to the producer, I said, thank you so much, but I have understudied so many times. No. And Carmen called me that night and said, would you come in and replace Catherine Sergeva, I think it was, and play Jenny? Would you like to play Jenny? And I went, yes. And so I went back into Threepenny and played Jenny for quite a while. Yeah.
Wow. So you really worked your way up.
Yeah, well, Threepenny. And I wanted so much when they did it on Broadway to audition and to play Mrs. Peachum, but I never got close to it. I did not get an audition for that. And I thought it would be so much fun to, have played all the female roles in that piece.
So this is adding up to quite the long run. How did you make sure it never got stale?
Threepenny?
Yeah.
It could never get skid. No, I mean, no. If you're doing your work right, you don't get stale. It's like exciting every time you hit the stage. And I had not played that role. I had played all the other things.
Okay.
So, no, I loved doing Threepenny again. That was terrific.
And during this time, you also were doing Broadway shows. You were in as you mentioned, first of all, the musical version of Seventh Heaven with Gloria DeHaven and Ricardo Montalban.
Yes.
That lasted 44 performances. And then you did, in 1959, the musical Saratoga, based on the Edna Ferber novel Saratoga Trunk, with music by Harold Arlen, lyrics by Johnny Mercer, and that lasted...
And sets and costumes by...
Cecil Beaton?
Who did My Fair Lady?
Cecil Beaton.
Cecil Beaton.
Yes.
And I was very, very friendly with the props person, and so I got these wonderful benches from the set, and I put them in my garden downtown at home. So I had things from the show, but nothing to wear, but just a bench. It was wonderful.
So I assume you started with both these shows out of town and then brought them into New York. I romanticize that era. It just seems like it must have been so much fun to go out of town, try things. Am I correct, or am I?
Yeah, well, but particularly with Seventh Heaven, with Gloria, that was the first time that I really danced on a stage either, because it was Pat Hammerly, Cheetah Rivera, and myself, and we were Camille, Colette, Fifi. And the show got really not very good reviews, but we got great reviews. They loved the three prostitutes. That was really good. And in our contracts, it said, and cover for Diane, who is Gloria DeHaven, Cheetah, Pat Hammerly, and myself, and we're all covering her. And we're in Philadelphia, and she's doing a scene with Ricardo, and I heard that he was saying her lines and then answering them. And then he would say her line and then he'd answer it. And it was very peculiar. So she came off stage and she said, and the stage manager grabs me and said, "Do you know it? I mean, did you?" Well, I mean, it's the beginning. It's the first act. And I said, "Yes, I think I know it. I mean," excuse me. And so she got out of the costume and threw the costume on me, and I came on for the finale of the first act and sang this beautiful song that Victor Young had written. And the audience is going, because I still had my real heavy prostitute makeup on. And we had just done our number, Camille, Colette, Fifi, blah, blah, blah. And so he couldn't make the announcement until the intermission. And ladies and gentlemen, and so I finished the show and then I played it again that night. And miraculously on Sunday, Gloria's voice came back and she played Sunday and never was out again. Okay. Anyway, so that, and it just changed the other two girls that I played with, Cheetah particularly, who were just so impressed that I knew it because they were supposed to know it too. You know, I mean, it's like, it wasn't my job alone. It was like, that was the way they, and so it changed things enormously. And suddenly it became, you dance so well, and you can do all this. And of course, I was the weakest dancer. I mean, Pat Hammerly had been in a ballet company, and Cheetah was Cheetah, you know. And the choreographer was Peter Gennaro, and Cheetah, you know, together. Hello. So, and I'm the end of the number. We all go da 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 dum, and we're holding our legs up, and it says Camille, Colette, Fifi, and so Cheetah the longest. So 44 performances by then. Yeah. I was holding that leg a long time. And she just said, "Could you put down a little sooner because I'm at the end." And it's like very hard for so long to hold my leg up.
Did the show change a lot on the road? And what was it like getting new lines and new or scenes? Or
Oh, well, it was, first of all, I got married then. And so I had a lot going on at the same time, you know, learning her part, which nobody knew that I knew, blah, blah, blah. And trying to keep up with these two dancers who were Broadway dancers. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you what strength that is to be a Broadway dancer. I mean, it's like, okay, yeah, next, 5, 6, 7, 8, hit it. You know, I mean, they're really, anyway, so I was not popular. I was never popular. I was like, you know, just doing my job.
Gotcha.
Kind of.
And with Saratoga, again, ran 80 performances. Did you?
I played at least 20 of them.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Carol was doing the Perry Como show at the time, and so she...
This is Carol Lawrence.
Carol Lawrence. And so she was out a lot. So, you know, that's what happened.
Did you know with these shows that they were not good?
No, they were enormously expected to be terrific.
Yeah.
I mean, Saratoga, with those people as the composer and the lyricist and the whole thing, and Cecil Beaton.
Yeah,
Can imagine. As a matter of fact, when I auditioned for it and I sang Un Bel Dia in English, I mean, you know, so they could hear that, and everything's coming up roses. Mm-hmm. So we get the low voice and the high voice, you know. God forbid they should, you know, mix nicely. Anyway, and I remember Teek DaCosta, who was the director.
Martin DaCosta.
Yes, he was known as Teek. And Morton DaCosta. And he said, "Do you think you can fit into Carol's clothes, Gerrianne? Because there's no way we can have another set made. Cecil Beaton's doing them, and they're so expensive." And I said, "Oh, I'm sure I can." And got as thin as I could get, and I fitted into them just fine. And I did it a lot because she was doing Perry Como.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shortly thereafter,
Yes.
1960, you played Cecily in the Off-Broadway musical Ernest in Love.
Yeah, I think the only thing you forgot was that I did Gypsy, a road company of Gypsy, and played in Las Vegas.
Right.
And I made sure that I had a 6-week out clause in the contract because I was pregnant. And oh, you left out Milk and Honey.
Uh,
Oh, we're not up
it's
to
on
Milk
my
and
ne-
Honey
it's on
yet.
my next
I'm
page.
sorry.
Trust
I'm
me.
sorry.
Trust
I'm
me.
sorry. No,
There's method to my madness.
Gypsy. So I went to Las Vegas to do Gypsy, and I needed that. I handed in my notice opening night because I was six. You know, I had 6 weeks, and I was like in almost my third month. Big boobs because I was pregnant, so it was perfect for Gypsy. But it was just anyway. So I with Mitzi Green and Julie Munchin and I. Yeah.
Wow. So let's shift the focus for a little, because you mentioned this is your first daughter, Kathleen, that you were about to give birth to.
Yes.
So I'm struck by the fact that Kathleen, even though you were about to have Kathleen, you were still about to do a show in a time when that wasn't common.
I couldn't, the idea of playing that part and being the third lead and the thing in Las Vegas, and as long as I had 6 weeks.
Okay.
And it was really awful because it was 7 nights a week, 2 shows a night. It was, you know, they cut it down. It was like, you know, they cut out, you know, I didn't have to do the lamb thing. I had a lamb in Lambertville, but they cut out that number. So it was very hard work. It was really awful. And Mitzi lost her voice, of course, got Vegas throat. And they brought in Benet Venuta, if anybody remembers Benet Venuta. Yeah. And she was darling. She was lovely, except Ethel was her best friend, Ethel Merman. And so she was on the phone all the time. Ethel, what should I do here? And who had to rehearse every day and do 2 shows at night but me? Because it was... So that was very hard.
And at some point, so you gave birth to Kathleen.
Yes.
Was that during the 6 weeks, or
No.
Because kids aren't always dependable that way.
No. I finished my run in Las Vegas, and I went back to New York, and I did a show for I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 that next month with Linda Lavin, and it was a musical. And I can't even remember the name. Oh, Fifth Avenue North.
Okay.
That was the name of it. Fifth Avenue, big flop. Fifth Avenue North. Yeah.
And then you had.
And then I had Kathleen.
Okay. And after you had Kathleen,
yes.
How many years did you take off after Kathleen was born?
8 weeks. I went right into Milk and Honey.
Okay, and then I'll come back to Milk. And then you, at some point, you have your second daughter, Kristen, who is here today.
Yes. The reason that I had Kristen, I was playing.
There's water, by the way.
Oh yes, that's nice. I was playing a pregnant girl, and I had a wonderful scene where I had to milk a goat on stage.
This is in Milk and Honey.
Milk and Honey, yes. And milking a goat had nothing to do with the title, but anyway. But I had to wear a pillow. And so it seemed like such a good time to get pregnant again. Because, I mean, how often you get a Broadway show and you didn't have to go out of town, and you already have a child, and you could be pregnant and still be working. So Kristen is 16 months younger than Kathleen.
Wow.
And she's right there.
And after Kristen was born, how many months did you take off before your next show?
Oh, I don't remember what I did next.
You didn't.
What was it?
I just said that.
Oh,
I said you didn't take off any time.
no.
You didn't?
No. Oh, I remember. Yes, I do remember. I auditioned for a Fiorello at the Westchester Dinner Theater.
Uh-huh.
And it was timed just right that I would have the baby, and I'd have 2 or 3 weeks before I would start needing to go to rehearsal. And Kristen was 10 days late and weighed 9 pounds. And I went, not very long after, right to rehearsal. And Virginia Mayo and her husband, Michael O'Shea, he was playing Fiorello. And Virginia Mayo was playing the secretary. I was the first wife, Thea, who just dies at the end of the first act. So that's okay. I have a pretty song to sing, and that's what happens. And she said, "Oh, I understand you just had a baby." And I said, "Yes." She said, "How old is she?" And I said, 6 days. And she absolutely turned gray. I mean, she went, oh. And so anyway,
Right.
that was, yes.
And then you had your third daughter, Deidre.
Oh, yes.
And how many hours did you take off after Deidre?
No, there's a full 2 years between Kristen and Deirdre. So I had 3 children in 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
that was it.
again, it's very unusual to not take time off. I'm curious, your first husband, John?
John Weaver, yes.
Was he supportive?
Oh, very. Oh, he was absolutely terrific. Oh, I know what happened after Deirdre was born. She was 11 days old, and I auditioned for La Mancha. And what was so odd about that still is that I never sang in Milk and Honey. I wasn't singing at all. And so when I auditioned for La Mancha, I knew it was to cover Joan Diener. And Albie Marr was the director. And I sang How Can I Wait from Paint Your Wagon was my audition thing. And those of you who know or don't know, but there's a big, at the end of it, you go, how can I, when can I sleep, can I eat, what can I do with my hands and my feet, how can I wait till tomorrow comes. So I went, how can I wait till Albie, I don't want to take the last note because I really don't want to push in that much. I just had a baby. And he said, that's all right. I said, but you're going to have to audition for Jack Cole.
The choreographer.
Yeah, the choreographer. And I said, that's all right. I can move everything. I said, I just didn't want to do that right now. He said, that's all right.
He knew you already.
And yeah. And so the following Monday, Deirdre would have been like 14 days old at that point, I think. I auditioned for Jack Cole, and we're in a studio, and he comes in, and he's got harem pants on, and he's stripped to the waist, these harem pants, you know. And he said, I understand you just had a baby. And I said, yes, Mr. Cole. And he said, I hope your insides aren't going to fall out. And I said, I certainly hope so too, Mr. Cole. I mean, what else is there to say?
Yeah.
And then he said, how does your head work? Is it your head works good? I said, no, I really don't do that well. I said, but I've got hips for days. So subsequently in La Mancha, they had to put in a whole number. And I was this gypsy dancer, and I did this whole big dance. And it was all hips. He never did anything with this. He was wonderful. He was terrific. That's all.
So, having a very full career and 3 young daughters.
Yes. Yes. Ask her what it was like.
When we celebrate you, Kristen, I'll ask you. What did you do? Did you give them to the stage manager when you came in the door, or did you have?
I had very good. I had very good help, and I was with them all day, and
Oh, that's right.
and then she'd come in time to do bath and feed them. And Johnny was at CBS at the time, and he was an associate director, and he would work till 2 a.m. You know, he was doing the late show, whatever. There was a lot of movies yeah. And then I had wonderful people that would be there in the day.
Wow.
And took care of the matinee.
Okay, I'm going to go a little back in time now.
Yes.
Back to Ernest in Love.
Oh yes.
Because what strikes me about that is, by this point you're doing Broadway shows and Off-Broadway, and particularly during this era, there were a lot of like Broadway snobs who wouldn't touch Off-Broadway. Did that ever enter your head?
No, I was. What happened was I was doing Threepenny, and I was playing Jenny, and that's when Ernest happened, and Jerry Orbach was playing the street singer, and we played poker backstage all the time. He taught me how to play high-low. That was the big thing. And he said, I'm leaving the show, and I'm going to be a star. And I said, well, I've got a new show, too. And we both left the same day, that same week. And he did Fantastics, and I did Ernest in Love.
Wow.
He became a star, and I didn't, but that's beside the point.
Was it a good experience?
Ernest in Love?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Oh, I had the best song in the show. Yes. Oh, I love that show.
Right.
I love their work. Lee Pockris and Ann Croswell. Yes.
And you're on the album?
Yes, we recorded the album for, I think it was Decca. Yeah, and actually the first day of rehearsal of La Mancha, Dick Kiley came up to me and said, I love A Wicked Man, it's my favorite song on that album. So he came and paid me a compliment the first day of rehearsal of that show. So Ernest in Love was a big deal.
Right.
You know, it was great fun. And I left it to do a package of West Side Story.
The Munich tour.
Yes, a
Yes.
tour. Yeah. Playing Maria. I was offered Cheetah's part like a dozen times. I mean, and I didn't want to do that. I only wanted to do Maria. That's what I wanted to sing. That's what I wanted to play. I didn't want to play Anita at all. And,
So you're getting
I got-
really good roles.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I assume that was exciting, but were you ever considered by ego, like, ooh, was there an
What?
ego problem, you know, in terms of like, ooh, I'm better than these other people?
Oh, no. I mean, you know, you think what you think, but I mean, it didn't affect my behavior to them or to other
Okay.
actors who I was working with. No.
I'm glad to hear that. So then you start with Man of La Mancha, understudying the female lead, Aldanza, and also playing the Gypsy woman. And that was very unusual because that also started downtown, but in a huge theater, correct?
It was the weirdest theater. It was before Lincoln Center was finished. We were meant to go to the Vivian Beaumont, but didn't exist yet. And so right across from some big, you know, it was in the Village. It was on Mercer Street and I can't remember the other cross street. And it had this terrible tin roof, and it rained. I can remember Dick saying one afternoon I think it was a matinee, yeah. And he said to the audience, I can't hear the people on the stage with me. I'm sure you can't hear me. And nobody could hear anything. I mean, it's this noise. So we stopped for 20 minutes until the rain stopped. I mean, but that was the theater.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the show moved to the Martin Beck? Or was it then the Martin?
Well, it stayed at the downtown there for a very long time.
Okay.
And then I left the show.
Ah.
And I was not in it when it moved from that theater. And then I rejoined it when they did the original company at the Vivian Beaumont.
And we happen to have a visual aid to prove this.
Oh, yes. Okay. All right, there was, I'm sorry, there was a fellow playing Ray Middleton's part, and his name was Jack Dabdoo. I didn't want you to open it all the way. It was just the bottom part that I want. All right. So his name was Jack Dabdoo. And they went and they paid this for 3 sheet, Dak to Boob. And they had to go and put pieces on top of it to all the stations in Long Island, everywhere that they put a 3 sheet, they had to cover Daboob with Dabdoo. I mean, and I came across it because of moving, where, you know, I'm digging up all kinds of things that, oh, look, there's this 3 sheet. So that's what happened this afternoon. And so I thought I'd bring it to show you Daboob. I mean, that was terrible, yeah.
And so you were, again, understudying Joan.
Well, I wasn't, I was
What,
covering
also-
for her. And I was the matinee company with David Atkinson.
Right. So you played at least twice a week. Wednesday.
Well, at least twice a week, but the schedule was Tuesday night through Sunday afternoon. And Joan liked to have a longer weekend, so she rarely played on Sunday afternoon. So I would play Sunday afternoon with Dick and the other 2 with David Atkinson.
Right.
That was what Lincoln
So
Center.
again, it's fun always to hear you refer to people so casually. So Dick is Richard Kiley.
Richard
who won the
Kiley, I'm
Tony
so
Award
sorry.
for-
I don't mean to be.
No, you're doing fine. It's my job to inform.
Yes. Okay.
So, I'm trying to get to a story that you told me about the stagehands. at Man of La Mancha.
Well, I don't know what they do now because I haven't done a Broadway show in a while since King of Hearts. But there was always a fireman backstage, and one time the fireman came up to me at the Vivian Beaumont, And he said, I'm so happy when I get Sunday afternoon because you and Mr. Kiley are the best show. That's the one I really like. Oh, it was wonderful. I love that so much, you know. Yeah, that was really good.
And you did La Mancha not only at the Vivian
Oh, then I did it. I did it forever and ever
you
and
did,
ever.
Yeah, I noticed it all over the.
I did a package. I did a national tour with Alan Jones.
And again, for people who don't know Alan Jones,
Alan Jones
was in A Night at the Opera, and A Day at the Races, and how to put this delicately. Had his acting improved at all since A Night at the Opera?
I wasn't familiar with A Night at the Opera, and so I have no answer for that.
Okay.
I can only tell you that he chewed tobacco, and he had 2 little paper cups in his side pockets.
Oh,
My mic has just
it's
done
okay
something
now.
strange. Okay. And he would, you know, in these 2 things. It was just awful. And that was during rehearsal. And one of his things that he thought was so wonderful was that he said, I moved it from my left jaw to my right jaw all through the quest. I mean, what is that? That's and the other terrible thing that he would do, it was just awful. We played Illich Gardens in Colorado, beautiful theater, lovely, and there was a place backstage, an oxygen machine, because so forth. And
because you were so high up. in
yeah,
elevator.
that's right. And I was singing "What Does He Want of Me?" and the quest is the next. He's going to come on for that. Is right after I finish that song, and at the end of it, it goes, "Well, you know, with a world that can't be, and what does he want of me?" The orchestra's out, and I go, "What does he want of me?" And that's the way it ends. So it would go like this: "Da-na-na-na, the world that can't be, and what does he want of me?" And he would spit. And I would go, what does he want of me? It was every night he would do that. It would make me crazy.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
that was just something.
You played La Mancha then with many Don Quixote.
No,
Or did-
not really many. I played quite a few with Dick, because that was every
Right.
Sunday afternoon. That was great. A lot with David Atkinson. And
Did-
thank you so much. How could I do that? Jose Ferrer was. We were the first 2 people to replace Joan and Dick. They went on a holiday,
Gotcha.
and I went on with Jose Ferrer and myself.
Did your
That was-
Aldonza change depending on who you were playing with?
No, but when Dick and Richard Kiley and I started doing it on Sundays, I had to here I am. It's okay, because when he would sing Dulcinea, he wasn't getting a lot from the person playing opposite him. So I was like, "Hello, I'm here." Me, and then that got okay and
Oh,
fine
good.
and wonderful. He was so wonderful.
By the way, I'm curious, when you started, Broadway shows were not mic'd, correct?
No, absolutely
When
not.
were you mic'd in La Mancha?
No, not at all.
Wow.
Not at all. I was mic'd in that play where
King of Hearts?
no, it'll come to me. It was a big movie, and they all get naked at the end. No,
Oh, Calcutta?
I can't remember the name. They made it was a big musical, and
Hallelujah, baby.
oh, I was in that too, but that wasn't what I mean. I can't
Okay,
think
that's okay.
of the name of the show. But anyway, that I was mic'd
Right.
for that.
How was it adjusting to suddenly having a mic?
Oh, it was wonderful. It was terrific. But the fellow who played, he's won a lot of Tonys and things. Wonderful tap dancer. They took all their clothes off at the end and had something. The full Monty.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I was the piano player. It was a
right.
wonderful part. It was,
Yes. This is yours, yes.
yeah, and we were in Patchogue. Yeah, And there was the fellow who played the one who on Broadway won Tony for his tap dancing and so forth, was a big star of The Color Purple. Well, I don't know why it happened, but he heard that I did a lot of voiceovers and I did Little Children. And he would make me do it every night before we put our mics on. That's what made me remind it. And I would go, a tiny step forward in man's quest for flavor. and he just loved that. And I did a lot of animation, and THUNDERCATS is what people, you know.
I've mentioned THUNDERCATS to some people. Yeah, I mentioned your Broadway credits and all your theater, and I say then THUNDERCATS, and younger people get so excited. You're part
I
of
know,
it.
I was Pumira, and it was a wonderful job. You know, it was great fun, and I loved doing it, and so forth. And I like doing different voices and stuff like that. And there's somebody here who also is a voiceover person, Polly, and we were with the same agency, and we used to work together and be competitive with each other and all of those things, and those were very good times.
Yeah. You mentioned that in 1978 you did the musical King of Hearts.
Yes.
Which again lasted 48 performances.
Oh, God.
I'm not blaming you.
Thank you.
Did you have a sense that Broadway era was in decline? I mean, in the 80s and 90s, there were so few new Broadway musicals.
Well, the fellow who originally directed, no, I don't.
Right.
No, I don't feel that way.
Okay.
No.
Was it a good show?
No.
The
That's not really fair. It was a beautiful story, and it was a fantastic set, and the fellow who played Don Gardino, he was wonderful. I don't know. People were big fans of it and came back 2 and 3 and 4 times, and we didn't run very long. But it just didn't happen. I don't know. It just didn't make it. Maybe the music wasn't terrific.
Okay.
You know.
In the interest of time, I'm going to move forward a bit.
Oh, yes.
Because in the late 1980s, you performed with one of my heroes in Sid Caesar and Company.
Oh, yes.
And among the things you did, it was a review, and one of the things you did with Sid Caesar is you did man and wife arguing to the first movement of Beethoven's Fifth.
That's right.
Which is a mime piece that Caesar originally performed with Annette Febvre in Caesar's
Correct.
Hour.
Yes.
So I'm curious, when you auditioned, did you memorize a monologue and then mime it?
I'm looking back on the audition. It didn't start as what you called it. What did you say, Sid Caesar and?
Caesar and Company.
Yeah, no, it was just Sid with different dates in different cities.
Uh-huh.
And then he got the Village Gate, and suddenly it became a show.
Right.
And
So originally it was more just like
it
a
was
concert.
it was just a concert, and it was kind of wonderful because it was we do it at the end of a serious concert at a hall. It was proper and so forth, and we do. Bum, 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 bum.
So this is with an actual symphony.
Oh
orchestra.
yes, we did it to a big symphony orchestra. That was the whole point of it. And but when I auditioned for him, it was because of his pianist, who was Elliot Finkel, son of Fibish Finkel. And
How did you know Elliot?
Elliot was playing for him.
Okay.
Like he was.
But Elliot also
played-
knew you.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
Elliot was a friend, and I'm trying to think. We just had a talk, and he said, "You watch the thing that I did it with the Nanette. You watch that?" And I said, "Yes. I'm." He said, "Don't do anything like she does it. Don't do anything like she does it." I said, "Oh, okay. Whatever you say, sir." And so we rehearsed, because I had a tape of seeing it and being familiar with the music and so forth. And he was really terrific. I mean, he was very in the moment. And so I did it back. And so there was one point where he's leaving, and I'm saying, get out of here, go, go. I don't want to have anything more to do with you, go. And he makes believe he's packing his suitcase, and he's going, taking this and putting it in. And I took it, and I took it out. And he went,
So this was not planned.
no, it's not planned in any way whatsoever. And I put it back in, and then we had a tug of war. And we were doing it musically exactly right, because we were good at that. And so it was a joy to play with him, because it was spontaneous, and you'd add new things and do things differently. Not enormous things, but whatever the music called for, and he was right there with it, you know. And then he would leave, and I would pull the hair out of the dog, and it turned out it was the dog's hair and not his hair.
You suspected that he was
Yeah,
having an affair.
he was having an affair with somebody, and I go. And I did that. That was not in the thing. I made like I was pulling a knife out of my stomach. So I ad-libbed along with him, and it was terrific. That was really good. So then we got the Village Gate, and I had to do a song, and I was doing Wicked Man from Ernest in Love, and I decided maybe that's not the right song to do in this venue, so I learned. I got a miracle, you know, something from Mac and Mabel.
Wherever
And-
he is.
Yeah, wherever he is, exactly. And I was having so much trouble with the words, but I got through it, and I sang it one night. And he's sitting backstage there, and he said, "What happened to the Wicked Man?" And I said, "Well, I thought this." He said, "No, I like the Wicked Man better," and I was so happy he liked the Wicked Man better. I was delighted. I think it was a little bit longer, and so he had more time to rest between what he was doing.
Because he was so physical.
Oh, he was always very physical, and he had we had what's her name, Marie. I don't know, another girl joined.
Marilyn Silver.
Marilyn Sokol.
Yeah.
Yes. They didn't get along at all. I don't know why. He was, you know, he was very, and he liked that I would come into his dressing room, you know, before, you know, a half hour and just sit and talk. And he didn't want to say anything. It's like, I mean, I didn't know what to do. But we got along perfectly fine because I did my job, and he enjoyed working with me, you know. Obviously.
Yeah.
However,
Yes.
be that as it may, it went to Broadway, and I wasn't asked to join. He had like I don't know, 5 girls with him that did it, and he used one of those girls. It played one night or something terrible. I mean, it was, you know, really not a hit. So
Okay.
that was the end of that.
Moving forward again, I want to shift the focus a little bit. Because, again, you know, during this time you're doing regional theater, lots of
I didn't do a lot of regional theater.
Okay.
No, because I was making a lot of money doing voiceovers.
Okay.
And so it cost me a lot of money to go away.
Okay.
So I didn't do it.
So you're doing THUNDERCATS, you were doing commercials,
Right.
and you also joined this Off-Broadway theater company called Workshop Theater Company.
Indeed I did, yes.
Which I joined in 2004, which is how we met.
Yes.
We did the 42nd Street Workshop, then moved to 36th Street. And I'm not the only wonderful guy you met in 2004. Also in 2000, well, let me put it this way. We did readings of Foreign Affairs in 2004, and then we premiered it in early 2005. And we ran 4 weeks at the Equity Showcase Code Off-Broadway. I think you got car fare. And
Did I?
at every, they may have asked you to donate it back during the workshop. And at every performance in 60-seat theater, rickety seats, very off-Broadway, in the 3rd row, on the side aisle, was this guy, older, sort of debonair, rugged good looks, who watched you every single performance. In the beginning, I thought, doesn't this guy have anything else to do? And he looked at you like he was a stage door Johnny. And then you introduced us, and his name is Noah Keane. He was your third husband.
Yes.
Oh,
Thank you for that.
A
Yes.
wonderful actor who I adore. And you had just gotten married, right?
Yeah.
In 2004.
Right.
But you had met a little bit before that,
60
right?
years earlier, yeah.
Oh, wait, did I hear 16 or 6-0?
6-0.
6-0.
Yeah.
How did you meet?
I had been married a year to Kristen's father, and I met Noah at Summer Stock, Brandywine Music Theater and music tent. And he had been a stage manager at NBC, and he had been fired, and he was getting a divorce. And he was, at that time, we called him a manic depressive, but it was really bipolar, but who knew that then? You know, nobody used that term. Anyway, he learned all his parts before he came up for the summer. And I don't know, maybe he had acted at college, but I mean, he was just wonderful though. His jigger in Carousel was fantastic. And so I met him that summer. We fell in love.
You played Carousel together?
No, we played Brigadoon together.
Okay.
And and he was Jeff and I was Meg and like that. And so
you
we
had love scenes.
Well, sort of. I mean, I sang a song and he was trying to go to sleep and character-wise, but anyway. And so we had that summer together, and then
And if I may pry a little, you said you had that summer together. How well did you get to know each other?
Oh, we were decidedly having an affair.
Okay. And this is a year into your marriage?
Yes.
Okay.
And at the end of the summer, we broke up, and I couldn't understand what the hell was going on. What? And it was the end. And I went back to Johnny. I mean, because I never left Johnny, really. And that's when I had all the children, and like 8 years went by. And
you were married to Johnny for 22 years, right?
Yes.
So it was a good marriage.
Yes, it was, until it wasn't.
Okay.
And when La Mancha was over, I went for an audition to a guy named Jack Good, who was doing a musical version of Othello. And it was called Catch My Soul. And I was there to audition for Amelia, opposite Iago's wife. And it's the only time in my life that I never did the audition. We just talked for an hour, and he gave me the part.
Wow.
I mean, that was just amazing.
And you tried, there was an out-of-town tryout in Los Angeles, correct?
Well, it was meant to play at the Amundsen Theater. It wasn't, that was the thing. So I went to California, and I looked up Noah immediately. And,
He had moved to California years earlier.
Noah was by now on Mission Impossible and Bonanza, and he was doing very well in California. And he was
A wonderful character.
Judge Thatcher in opposite Celeste Holm in Tom Sawyer. That was another one. Oh, and Planet of the Apes. He was the teacher.
And Twilight Zone.
Twilight.
Oh, yes, Twilight Zone,
Yes.
of course, Twilight Zone. I was just thinking of films, I guess. But anyway, we got back together in California for Catch My Soul. And then I went back to New York, and I couldn't wait for the next summer to bring the children back to California. And so I painted my car with lots of flowers. That was that time. And I made curtains for this Volvo station wagon, and the three kids, I guess they were 4, 6, and 7. That's how old they were. And we got in the car, and I drove to California. And we slept in the car every night. And had,
This is the net summer after Catch My Soul.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And because they had said, I got very good reviews in Catch My Soul, and it said, you have to be out here. Like, you can't go back to New York and then expect to get a series. Anyway, but I wasn't going to be without my children, so I drove across the country in a painted car. And nothing happened, and I broke up. That's what the summer was. And then
Did the girls know about Noah?
well, my eldest daughter did, and that's created quite a bit of problems. Not anymore, like we've gotten over it now, thank you. But that was difficult. And the night we arrived in Los Angeles was the night Robert Kennedy was killed. And I remember finally getting in a proper bed, and I had the TV on, and I thought, why is Jack Kennedy, why are they talking about him so much? And of course it was Robert had just been, and it was like dimming the lights when you drove all the time because Martin Luther King had just been killed. So I just remember that at the beginning of that whole summer. Anyway, we went to Woodstock, Johnny and the children and I. That was kind of exciting. And that was the end of Noah, you know.
Wow.
I mean, he would call me on my birthday all the time, and he'd come into New York and we'd have lunch. And but we weren't together. I mean...
So how did you get back together?
He called me on the telephone one night. Oh, actually, my friend Peggy, who was sitting next to Kristen, I gave a party, and we were in this little room on 28th Street, and I said, "Oh, it's Noah on the telephone," and she went, "Oh," I just remember that so clearly. Anyway, he always remembered my birthday, whatever. So he calls me on the phone and he said, "I can't find my recording of Ernest in Love," and I said, "It just came out on CD. I'll send you one." And so he did. And so I did. I sent him the thing. And he wrote me a letter. And he said, "I know that what we had was more than a summer romance." And that infuriated me. And I wrote back, I said, "Summer romance? You're the love of my life, for Christ's sakes. What do you mean, summer romance?" And I went into great detail about all of the times that it just wasn't the right time, whatever. And then I wrote, ... maybe this is the time. Call me on the telephone. And he said, "I have to come in for a friend of mine who's retiring," and I thought I would come in and attend that party. And so he did. And we went to my granddaughter's 3rd birthday on that Sunday. He came to church with me. I was singing at this church in Harlem. And
And you were quite single at this time.
oh, yes.
Right.
Oh,
This
I
is
was...
after
like,
first
oh,
Amsterdam
yeah.
marriage.
Oh, I didn't even mention Greg, number 2, but that's okay.
That's okay. In the interest of time, we'll get back to Noah.
Yeah. It was nice, but it's short. Anyway, so he came in to New York, and we went to Sydney's birthday. And then Monday night, I brought him to the workshop. And that was kind of nice and exciting. We went out afterwards to where we were hanging out at that time at the hotel, and ate and drank and so forth. And then that was Tuesday. Wednesday, he took me to a nice restaurant that's got a pool, like 50th Street and Four Seasons, yes. And
So this is very fancy.
oh, yeah, it was very fancy. And all the waiters are dressed in proper gray suits and proper ties and so forth. And Noah had this thing where he always liked to say Dr. and Mrs. Keene for dinner. He always put doctor there. I don't know what that was about. Anyway, so the waiter, comes over and he says, "Doctor, can I ask you a question?" And I went, "Oh, God, what is it?" He said, "I really have trouble falling asleep. Do you have any?" He said, "What do you do before you fall asleep?" "Well, I get relaxing." And he said, "Have a banana." What the hell was that? I mean, it was ridiculous. Anyway, oh, thank you, doctor. I certainly will try that tonight. That's what I remember about the course. So that was Tuesday night. Wednesday, a friend of mine was singing not Scheherazade, Salome at the Met. And that was very exciting. And so we went to the Met and that party and everything. And Thursday night, we stayed home because Friday was the person who was retiring, and that was the reason for his having come to the city. And he said, "Come here, come into the living room. I want to ask you something." And I said, "What is it?" He said, "What would you say if I asked you to marry me?" And I said, "What is that?" Are you asking me or aren't you asking me? What the hell is that? And he said, yes, I'm asking you. I said, yes! And so I was doing that play at the workshop that I really enjoyed so much. It was all monologues. And it was...
Oh, the Ken Jabberwocky, yeah.
Yes, yes. Oh, yes, Ken Javish, yeah. I just love that. And then it was moved to the main stage. And we closed on a Friday night, and Saturday morning, I went to California, and we were married on May 22nd. And he was 83. And I thought, so how long can it last? I mean, it doesn't matter. This is what we're doing. And we were married 15 years. He died at 98.
Wow. And I have many favorite memories of the two of you acting together in my plays and in some other people's plays too. But I remember, I just have to share this, because once I was at a party at your house, and Noah was, fairly old by this point. I remember you just sort of walking by him, and him sort of reaching out with a little bit of, wobbliness in his reach, and pinching your ass.
I don't remember that.
He was like a role model that way to me. I thought, this is who I want to be in my 90s. So.
Yeah, it was just so remarkable and wonderful that we had 15 years after meeting, sit all that length of time back then. Anyway.
Gerrianne, if it's okay with you, I'd like to open the floor to some questions.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a little Phil Donahue. I'm gonna take these glasses off. I only needed to read your notes. By the way, it was really fun talking to you. So, the floor is now open to both questions and stories, but first I'd like to ask if anyone has questions, we'll start with those.
Yeah,
Oh, hold on a second. Sir, let me walk over to you. You can take your mask off for the...
well, regarding the early years with your father in the CBS Orchestra, did you know Morton Gould?
No, I did not.
Oh, wow.
No, I
Okay.
did not.
Okay, now that the questions are over, we'll move to, does anyone have any stories about Gerrianne they'd like to share? Lauren, can you
Can't see it.
take your mask off?
Hi.
And why don't you
Hi.
stand?
Okay. Well, you sort of answered my question, but I remember really the first day I spoke to you where there was an audition at Don Buchwald, an in-house audition, and whatever it was for, and I said something to you, and you said, oh, I do little boy voices. and I was going, and then I have something to read, but I wanted to ask if you could do a little boy voice. I think you did one earlier, but,
Yeah. Well,
that was the Thunder.
No, I didn't. I wasn't a little boy on Thundercats. I was a nurse, sort of.
Oh.
Yeah.
But anyway, I loved your little boy voice. I remember.
Yeah, let's hear.
So,
I just do that same one line because it just covers it.
okay.
A tiny step forward in man's quest for flavor.
I remember exactly where we were standing, and I kind of went, "Whoa, that was amazing." So the other thing is, this invitation went out very wide, and there are regards for Michael Raymond, who couldn't be here tonight,
Oh,
and Gary.
thank you.
And Gary Hotchberg, our voiceover.
Oh, yes.
So he wrote, although I have not seen Gerrianne in 24 years, please tell her that I wish I were at this gathering to wish her all the best in the future. I haven't had her USPS address since she and Noah moved from Lexington Avenue many years ago.
Oh.
Like most of the incredible VO talents who I had a privilege to work with, I too miss those golden days, for me the late 1970s to 1998, but mostly golden through 1988, when business was hectic and fun. Gerrianne was the first very major VO actress I worked with, and it was, capital letters, great. Working with her really made me, capital letters, love my job.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. That's so nice.
Anyone else?
Gerrianne,
you left out the boyfriend.
Oh,
You
yeah.
did The Boyfriend? This is Off-Broadway?
No. It was Off-Broadway, and it was at the Cherry Lane Theater. Well, we actually we opened on 8th Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenue in a Ukrainian, I think it was Ukrainian hall. And that's where we opened. It was a great success, and then we moved to the Cherry Lane and was there for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Was it fun?
well, yeah.
I was 9. And that was the first time I saw you on stage.
Oh,
And I was just beside myself. You were so wonderful.
oh, thank you. I played Maisie, and I had to do the Charleston. And Cheetah and I were very good friends at the time, and she had just gotten West Side Story, and because of all this moving and all the music, and it's terrible to move after 10 years in a place and with all your memorabilia, and my goodness. And I came across this music, and it's A Boy Like That, and it says Cheetah on it, and I was helping her with that song, and she was teaching me the Charleston because I had to dance in The Boyfriend, and that's yeah. So The Boyfriend, that was pretty terrific.
Was that the original New York?
That was the first off-Broadway production of The Boyfriend.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Any other questions or stories? Yes, Dee.
I remember being in the village with my parents and my brother one Saturday, and my father says, "Oh, let's go see the show." And I saw you in Man of La Mancha. Oh my God! I mean, I remember that show so well, and who'd have thought I would have met you so many years later? But
Wow.
it was really wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody-
I will go to both of you. We'll start with Scott.
Okay. I have so many wonderful memories. I've written 2 short plays for Gerrianne, one on purpose and the other one completely by accident. If I had to pick a favorite moment of Gerrianne's, we were doing a benefit for the workshop at the Lortel, and you were going to sing one of the songs from La Mancha, and on stage there were all these microphones set up for the singers. And as she was introducing the song, she took one microphone and moved it out of the way. She took the other and moved it out of the way. Stood center, sang the song without microphones, and just blew the fucking doors off. That was amazing. So that's chief in my wonderful memories imprinted.
That's lovely. Thank you.
you.
Thanks. Oh, by the way, for those who Scott Sickles is not only a wonderful playwright, but he was artistic director of the Workshop Theater for many years. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Have it stand, John. Feel free to take off your mask.
This is another piece of. This is actually it's a photo of snow in some movie. So take a look. I mean, it's not.
The two of you did a cabaret?
Yeah, we did. I was
Yes.
Thank you for it. That's,
Oh.
Yeah, we did a thing called Gerrianne, Gerrianne, Julie, and John, which was Gerrianne and Julie Stein and John. And,
You're John.
And I'm John. And Gerrianne, it was like I was thinking about this today. It was probably the best thing that I've ever done, and the best time I've ever had for an hour on the stage.
Oh.
And
I
so
enjoyed it
grateful.
enormously too. I really
I'm
did.
so grateful for
that
giving
was-
me that opportunity to work with you. It was, well, the photos of Noah in some crazy movie. He was in.
Show us the photo of Noah for those people who have never seen him.
Well, he's.
Yeah, it's.
And
Okay,
there-
I'm not sure how well you'll notice Noah in this photo.
It was a crime. It was a.
From the Caper of the Golden
Oh,
Bulls.
good. Cape of the Golden Bulls.
Yeah, there it goes.
I missed that one.
That was. What was Steve? What was his name?
Stephen Boyd.
Yes.
Stephen Boyd.
Right. And okay, one more time. And Noah's far left, correct?
Yeah.
Noah's the handsome one on the far left.
Yeah. This was a
Come up
terrific
later.
movie. This was a good movie.
Who would like anyone else? all the way in the back. It's good exercise for me.
Hi. Hi, Gerrianne. It's
Hello.
Joe Amodio, and I'm a friend of Gerrianne's yes, Joe and Joe. And I just want to say that anyone who has had the good fortune to be at one of Gerrianne's parties knows that that is also something that is exemplary of her life and of the life she brings, the energy she brings to others. I've told the story so many times of just going to your parties, Gerrianne, and feeling like now I know. When I first went, I think the first one, and then subsequently each one after, I've always thought, now I know I'm in New York. I am living a real New Yorker life, because those parties are like something out of Holly Golightly's life, I've often thought. There are people who wear ascots with no irony and talk about and talk about calling the coast, and it is just fantastic. And there was one in particular that I figure I should mention because it shows how well you multitask. Because she's hosting and she's cooking all this food, and there are Christmas displays and tchotchkes everywhere, and you might think, my God, this is a fire hazard, and you would be right. Because one day I was walking past, and this is in the apartment on Lexington Avenue, and I was walking past the dining room and noticed, oh, that crackling sound is actually flames. And I walked in and just kind of calmly said, Gerrianne, the dining room is on fire. And without hesitation, she was like, oh, well, hold on. And she just whipped up a fire extinguisher that was right there on the floor, and just, hold on, put it out, and then went back to, distributing Kristen's Christmas cookies. Or whatever. So,
And the pewter candlesticks melted completely.
but thank you for all those parties and for just
you're so
being
welcome. You're so welcome. They were great fun.
Sure. Anyone else? Okay. Stand up, Natalie.
I just want to share a private memory. Remember when you had to leave 28th Street and we had to kiss a lot of frogs before we found that apartment uptown? Oh my God.
Yeah, Natalie found me my wonderful apartment on 149th Street with Noah, and that's
And you
what I've
made
been
it
living.
so amazing. We walked in there, it was a barn, and I think you realized how much packing you had to do as a result of all those touches. But it was sensational.
Oh,
Thank you.
well, that's very sweet of you to say that. Thank you.
And someone was...
Gerrianne is my fairy godmother. Our fairy. I know, I was going to get to our. You do your speech, I'll do mine. Sisters. So Gerrianne and my mother were in a show together. Which one was it? Was it Finian's Rainbow?
No, we were in Arabian Nights at Jones Beach.
Arabian Nights at Jones Beach in what year?
Oh, I don't remember
Was it
that.
before us?
I don't remember that.
Before Julie?
Yeah, oh yes.
Oh.
I think it was
Before she was married?
Yeah, it was before Julie. Yes, it was yes.
Julie, 66. Anyway, she's my older sister. But Gerrianne and my mom were best friends since then. And you stayed in the theater. And Mom raised 5 of us kids. But every Christmas, Gerrianne and her family, wherever we were way the hell out in Long Island, and they drive out every year through snow, sleet.
Oh,
sometimes
yes.
leaving early to go skiing. There were those years, but
Yes.
and you just kept that spark and kept the theater alive, right? But just being part of the family. year after year, going to visit you in all your wonderful apartments, even the one with the slide in it. I was always very impressed by the slide when I was a kid. But thank you so much for
Well,
being there.
thank you.
All right, who's next?
Who's next? Yes, Ben.
So this one's kind of an indirect story, but we started, our stories tonight started in the 30s, and I'm going to fast forward all the way to the late 2000s when the iPhones and what were relatively new things. I think we were doing Miss Lulu Bet, and I came home and brought one of the postcards from the show out. And at the time, it was a novelty to pull out your phone and Google or IMDb people. So my roommates were all like, "Let's see how famous these people are you're acting with." Well, I knew very quickly one star was going to shine more brightly on the internet than all the others. And this is Rich kind of mentioned this, but one of my roommates who's not a theater person at all, but we were just, going through your many, many credits, and I'll always remember him. We were all pretty substantially stoned. And I just remember him looking up from his phone going, "She was in THUNDERCATS?"
Yeah, people that love THUNDERCATS, they really love it. Yeah.
No, you blew everyone's mind that night. THUNDERCATS.
You actually have done conventions, right? Where you've signed autographs.
Oh, I've gone to many of those Comic-Con things, all that. Yeah, THUNDERCATS. And now it's their children who go, who watch, if THUNDERCATS go. Because I still have a few residuals from it, so it's still on.
Wow. What's it like to go to those conventions and just have all those people come up
Well,
to you?
it's a lot of fun. I mean, and some of them, they're just very, they just love you and love the characters and the whole thing, and it's nice. It's
Cool.
very pleasant.
It sounds it.
Yeah.
Anyone? This is last. Oh, okay.
I wasn't going to.
Yes, baby.
Now, I've been listening for over an hour and a half to Gerrianne. Now, how can I say it in English? As well as she talks, that's how well she writes. And being California, one of the best things is to finish her memoirs.
Amen.
Charles, would you like to say something?
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking. Hi, I'm Charles E. Gerber, and it's rough. It's hard. A hard act to follow. What can one say about Gerrianne Raphael? Brilliant? Obviously. Talented? Are you kidding? Funny? Joyously. Emotional? Well, she is partly Italian and eventually wound up marrying a Jew. What can I say here that could possibly do her justice? It's a nearly futile assignment, but I'll try at least to briefly recall how our lives and careers have intertwined. I'd first seen her on stage some years before we actually met. My wife, Carol, and I saw that review that she performed with Sid Caesar at the Village Gate and remarked how she more than held her own with a as a comic foil for that legend of laughter from your show of shows. Then, in the year that the 42nd Street Workshop was born, 1994, by that summer, we were organizing our first fundraising benefit, which took place at the lavish home in the Hamptons of one of our benefactors. And I was asked to organize, audition performers, and MC the entire the entertainment provided on the Sunday of that weekend. Now, Nellie Bellflower, who's now achieved producing fame with the film Finding Neverland, asked me to call this number belonging to one Gerrianne Raphael. And I didn't, foolish as I was, I didn't immediately recognize the name. To audition, I asked, and Nellie replied, no, just give her a call and you'll see. And so I called, and boy did I see. And here. Now, Gerrianne came up to the benefactor's home, went right to the grand piano, plopped down a score for our pianist, and she sang a song of the character Cecily Cardew called, I believe, A Wicked Man.
Yes.
And from the musical adaptation of The Importance of Being Earnest, in which she co-starred Off-Broadway, Ernest in Love. And I've been in love with her talent ever since. Now, Carol and I were fortunate to collaborate with her a number of times, particularly with the production of The Tempest, where Gerrianne was cast as a goddess. So there was no acting required. Now, she portrayed, naturally enough, the chief goddess Juno in the Act 4 Wedding Revels, for which I composed the music to Shakespeare's lyrics, Honor, Riches, Marriage, Blessing. And yes, some of you may recall that. And indeed. Oh, this called for Gerrianne to begin with her most dulcet soprano, initially in a largo tempo before changing to an up-tempo gospel number. I recall how beautifully she sang, of course, although she did question the lyrics somewhat, but was unable to consult the lyricist. Well, she made that number as no one else ever could, and Carol and I were beyond grateful. I'm happy to recount how much closer personally and professionally we became after she brought the inimitable Noah Keane into our lives. A true and deep friendship evolved, as well as critical success. And there were the glorious Christmas dinner parties year after year.
Thank you.
As fabulous a singer as Gerrianne is, as well noted is her brilliant acting, and among her consummate skills that can compare to acting and singing is her cooking.
Yes.
And nothing can compare to the feast that she provides except for the hospitality that framed it all. Yeah. Those holiday fetes will live forever cherished as long as memory serves. Everyone who is privileged to know and work with Noah, beyond any please forgive the pun, keenly misses him. I dare say all here will deeply miss Gerrianne, yet fortunately merely from a distance of miles, while she's vibrantly alive and well, and with her beloved familia in California, and so. Arrivederci, Gerrianne. Bonaventure, che bella signora. Ciao.
Thank you, Charles. That was so lovely.
So thank you for being in my plays. Thank you for showing me that every time you didn't get the laugh, it was my fault. Thank you for bringing my words to life. Thank you for bringing the words to life of so many playwrights, so many writers. And I guess I can't end with any better way than just saying thank you.
Thank you all.